Now we're just going to do a little bit of walking through some of the setup files that will help you in your everyday data entry, just get you more familiar with what's available under that setup area, and just get you comfortable here. So we're going to sit here and under the setup menu option, and we're just going to work our way down here. We're going to start with our general information. And this right here is where you have the name of your farm, and at any point in time, you can always come in and change this. So this is what will show like on the select company screen as your name, but you can change this at any time. So I could change this to Sarah's Test Farm, and you're good to go. Put in your address and stuff here. Pretty self-explanatory. This is just my address. Um, if you were doing 1099s or any of the other financial reports like that, like the 1099 or Schedule F, you would want to have your Social Security number, or if you're incorporated, you would have your FEIN number there, and then your phone number down here if you want to put that in there, and that just just gives you that if you're printing out like those financial forms, it'll print on those items like the 1099. Okay. Right now we have the tickler file is set for 15 days ahead. You can change this according to what you need right there. And then we have our Windows background color. And I think several of you already know about this, but maybe you don't. You can always change the Windows background color. So right now we have the blue selected, so it's blue over here. But you could change this to whatever color you'd like. It helps you if you have several farms, so several different three initial companies. It really lets you be able to understand that you've changed companies, and kind of keeps you more aware of what company you're in based on the background color. You can pick a color from the color selector over here, or you can also select one and then adjust it a little bit. Blue, green, red there if you know your colors are on the color wheel. And then once I save it, it's going to change my color here to pink right here. We see. That's under your general information. For right now, we're going to skip on down to accounting general information, which is a little different than the general information we were in before. And right here, this just is a little more about your setup and how you can customize how some of the Transaction Plus stuff will work within the program. You see over on the left-hand side here, I have all these check boxes for like auto numbering, basically. So the first four are all about auto numbering. And you definitely, if you're doing checks, you want to always proceed to the next number, then the auto check numbering here is what you want to have checked. Um, in recent years, a lot of us have gotten away from handwritten checks, and so a lot of it is electronic checks now. It makes this auto check numbering a little more difficult, as it only auto numbers numeric checks. So, like sometimes I recommend, and if I do myself, if you have like a, electronic check, I name it ACH and the date, or EFT, electronic funds check transfer and the date, or maybe you have a numeric code you go by. That kind of numbering system when you're dealing with electronics checks is a little different than we're used to in the past with our sequentially numbered checks. But if you're still handwriting checks, you can definitely use that auto numbering option there, and it will advance that check number. Same way with auto deposit numbering and journal numbering. Once you get into a numeric sequence and you have that box checked, it will automatically advance to the next number. It can get off on these numbers if you delete something and then come back, and when you reuse that number, that could throw things off. On the auto check numbering, I get this question a lot: how do you set what the next check is going to be? And that is under Setup, Accounting, Ledger Accounts. You find your bank account, and then it is the next field there. So I'm going to save this really quick and show you that screen. So for the next check number, we go to Setup and Accounting and Ledger Accounts. We would find, excuse me, our bank account right here. Bank accounts are indicated by a letter M over here in type. I'll click on change. You can see right down here, it's going to ask me what my next check number is. So I could put 500. And the next time I write a check, it's going to go to 500. Okay. You also notice there that I did have the option for next deposit number as well. So that would show up, and you use that if you have this checked right here for deposit number. We also have auto check numbering on AP. Of course, there's no auto check numbering on AR because we would not usually write an AR number there. So we also have some other options here, and after auto check numbering, we have including our PO on an AP entry. So those of you who use POs, you will check this box. You'll get an additional little box for any kind of POs. That works as on ARs as well right here. You also have the option to restrict a division to a bank division. What this means is if you have set checking accounts, so you have, let's say you have three divisions. You have crops, livestock, and trucking. Maybe you have 3 checking accounts for those 3 divisions. So you could choose here which checking account, which division defaulted, or no, it's not even default. If you have this set up, it will only let you use one division for that bank account. So again, if I chose this option, you would set this up under Setup, Accounting, and Ledger Accounts again. We would go to the bank account, and you'll see down here it has the bank division. So you could restrict this bank account, my first bank account number 302, to one of my divisions if I had multiple divisions. Meaning if you write a check, you can only put checks into division 0 when I'm using this checking account. If I have that box checked on the setup, accounting, general information. Okay. Setup, accounting, general information again. This screen has a lot on it, so I'm sorry it's kind of going back and forth. The next box down here is to flag your payroll checks as cleared. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. If you check that box, anything that's payroll check will be cleared when it comes in. If you're in Canada, you might use this Canadian payroll headings instead of the US headings, and you can check that box to get that to come up. Those would come up if you have a ledger account set up as a payroll type ledger account. The boxes come up, and you would want those Canadian headings instead of the US headings. I'm going to skip over this one because I don't think anybody uses this. I'm not even sure if it's fully functional. Then we go over here to our retained earnings ledger account. So retained earnings ledger account. Retained earnings is always going to be an equity account. It is going to be the account that when you say calculate retained earnings at the beginning of the year or whenever your fiscal year ends, it's going to take your net income from the previous year and put it to retained earnings in the first day of the current year. So you want to set which account that is so they can do that automatic calculation for you. So then we have the offset account for date cash exchanged. I don't believe anybody using a true date cash exchange uses that, but it's there if you want to. And then the payroll integration offset ledger account, that's set up if you're importing payroll. Okay, so here we have our accounts receivable invoice numbers and our next AP invoice numbers. So like the check ones were under a checking account. The AP and AR are here though. So this is where you would set up your next AP and AR number, unlike the check and deposit numbers. Your next journal number is also set up here, and your next APPO number is set up here. Again, these aren't related to ledger accounts, so you have to set them up right here. Okay. Speaking about accounts payable and accounts receivable, if you run those, it does use a special account as the main account. These are ledger accounts that you make no other entries to. They are strictly used by accounts payable and receivable. And we have added where you can have up to 5 different accounts for that. So you can select here. Usually most people, I don't know anybody right now currently using more than one. So you would set your main account here. So again, your accounts payable is going to be a liability, and your accounts receivable will be an asset account. It's not listed here. It says equipment. That's what threw me. I apologize. But your accounts receivable will be an asset, and your accounts payable will be a liability. Of course, hopefully you have more ledger accounts than I do in this test database, but that's what you put in those 2 fields right there. And make sure you save when you make any changes. Oh, the discounts here. So this is if you're when you pay AP or an AR or receive an AR, there's options for additional lines there. So if it was a discount amount, you could have a ledger account set up for discounts on both of these. And then if there's any late charges, it automatically sets those. You can always change those when you are in the pay AP or receive the receivable, but you can set those here right on this page as well to have more continuity across when you're putting those in. Good morning. I'm just going to go over a few of the setup enhancements that we have recently added to FBS just to make you more aware of what's available when you're working with your setup files, specifically cost profit centers and ledger accounts. So we're going to run this report here just to give a couple of test examples. And for the first one I'm going to show you, we're kind of looking at this center column right here. We're going to see what happens if I delete a center. So we're going to take this number one. I'm going to just click on delete. It asks me if I'm sure, and I say yes. I'm going to save it. Don't ever recommend doing that, but for demo purposes, I went ahead and did that. So if I refresh this report, rerun this report probably would be best. I deleted that center, so it's going to come up as not used on this report. We see that right here, that our test of this last entry at 224, center one is not used. So say I deleted it on accident. I really didn't mean to delete that center. There is a way to recover that so you do not leave all those orphaned entries. This is a little different than it used to be. Used to be you could just come in here and click on add and add it in center one, and then it would restore that all those entries to the correct center. Now we have different options. The first thing I have to do is hit save. A little nuance there, and then I go to tasks and restore deleted. And it brings up this table of any deleted centers I have. And you can see it has center one here is deleted. And if you had more than one center that you had deleted, they would all be listed here. You can go through and select which ones you want to restore. And I choose restore. And then I cancel this screen again. It's close it out because there's nothing else there I want to restore. I save my centers, close the screen, and I rerun it. And then that center is restored right there. Except it's a little different than it was before, so it's nice to have that option to just go ahead and restore it. Before you had to worry about if internal IDs were the same, and now you do not. It's much easier to restore a center. It's a little different in how things are done. Second thing I'm going to talk about is ledger account types. So we're going to play around with this first asset account right here. We're going to go to Setup, Accounting, Ledger Accounts. And we're going to go to this first expense account. It's currently a type C. C for livestock. We can change it to anything. We can change it to, so I'm going to change it back to the standard really quick just for this purpose. And then we're going to rerun that report. So what we're going to get, so this is a first asset. We're just going to look at this entry really quick. It is, because we changed the type on it, it's going to give us a warning here, or just an informational box. And it says that there's an issue on line 0 for this entry. The account type for the account 300 was changed since the entry was made. It went from it says that the account type and the entry is for type A and it is now set up as type M. I'm not really sure why it changed to M, but it says M right there. If you wish this line of this entry to use the most recent account type, then you'll need to delete their line and re-enter the line. So what that's telling you is that the account type changed, and when you change the account type, it changes what fields are available for that line. And so if you wanted to have this entry to be able to utilize the types of fields available for type M, you would need to delete the top line and then re-enter it. If I open the entry, we do see that there's only one line here. So to delete it, you'd have to either delete the entire entry, or I would just go here. I would insert a line after it, type in another line that mimicked the top line. I'm gonna make it exactly. It's gonna give you your different options here for your lines. And then I come up here to line number 1 and delete it. So then I'm back to my one-lined entry that is balanced. This second line can be deleted as well now. We don't need it. So we're left with just the line like it was when we first came into the entry. And then we could save the entry with the new line type. Okay. So a better example of this is going to be, I'm going to show you what I mean here. We're going to go back to setup and accounting, ledger accounts. We're going to change this expense account to a livestock account. It has a few more fields that are more easily seen. So I'm going to rerun this report really quick. So before we only had the line for our quantity, and where we come back into this line again. We're gonna get the same message. Message is gonna be, I don't know why it still says M. We did change it to different type than M. It's talking about that's account 300 it's talking about, though, not the account 200 that we changed. There's the message for account 200. And we just come over here, so now we can see that if I just click through this, we would have, we wouldn't have any changes. It looks the same. It used to be that you could just go down to a different ledger account and click through, and then come back to the expense account you originally used. And it will act like it's going to work and act like I can put a weight in here. I can save it. But if we refresh this report, oops, go through this message again. We do see the weight is right there. So it's just letting you know that you made a change to the ledger account type. And to be aware of that, if you're wanting to edit that line, that there might be some issues with editing it. You'd have to go through essentially, and by changing it to a different ledger account and changing it back is cheating the system a little bit. I could have also added a line and deleted a line. But that's kind of new warning that we have coming in on that screen for you as well. If there's any questions, contact support and we'd be happy to help. Thanks.